Good morning once again. Our topic for today is to how to write the conceptual framework. Today we're going to discuss what is conceptual framework, how it is done, types of research paradigm or model, and I'm going to give you also an actual sample. What is conceptual framework? Conceptual framework illustrates what the researcher expects to find in the research. It explains the major variables in the study. It guides the researcher by giving clear directions to the researcher. It is a diagram representing the relationships or connections of variables. What is the purpose of using a conceptual framework? Bakit kailangang merong isang conceptual framework ang isang research? There are two purposes. One is the conceptual framework in research is used to show relationships between different ideas and how they relate to each other in the research study. Conceptual frameworks are commonly used in qualitative research in behavior, rural, and social sciences to fully understand the phenomena being studied. The main purpose of the conceptual framework is to present the researcher's synthesis of literature and how to explain the concept so that the reader would understand it properly. Thus, the conceptual framework links concepts and empirical research and important theories that form the basis of the research conducted. How to write a conceptual framework. The first step is to select a topic for research. The research topic can be within your field of specialization. If you want to study a specific variable, then you can also create a conceptual framework for it. Number 2, search literature review. A conceptual framework in research is based on the literature review of the things that are on the topic. Carry out a literature review to better understand what research already exists on the subject and only stick to reliable resources such as scientific journals and scholarly articles. Number 3, analyze existing researches. While researching the already available data, look for the specific variables explained in the literature and analyze the relationships between them. Number 4, develop a conceptual framework. Now comes the time to lay out your conceptual framework in a visual form. It can be in the form of a flowchart concept map for mind map. Display the process of your research and variables. Visualize a cause and effect relationship to design the basic components like boxes, arrows, and lines in your framework. As you develop your framework, you will also be able to identify other variables that might influence the relationship between your dependent and independent variable. Make sure they are clearly mentioned. And fourth, number 5, add your narrative. To have visually constructed your conceptual framework, make sure you have added a detailed narrative that explains your research methodology in depth along with how the variables influence your research. These are examples. Here are examples of relationships. The first one is a single-headed arrow. It shows one directional relationship. Like A affects B, but B does not affect A. The second is the double-headed arrow. It shows two-directional relationship. It means A affects B and B affects A. Conceptual framework refers to the diagrammatical representation of your study. You should have your research design plus your explanation. Have a diagram. Simplified drawing showing the appearance, structure, or workings of something, a schematic representation. It represents the relationship of connection between variables. Example, there are different models in conceptual framework. First is independent dependent variable. This is used mostly in experimental based studies. This is an easy way to think of independent and dependent variables is when you're conducting an experiment, the independent variable is what you change and the dependent variable is what changes because of that. You can also think of the independent variable as the cause and the dependent variable as the effect. This is an example or this is a model of independent dependent variable. You can also show this model through a line. Another model is the IPO, or Input Process Output Model. IPO is used in research studies that propose a program or any intervention measures. This is what you see in the boxes. Under the input, you will see the data which is required in order to create the required outputs. Processes are the mediating mechanism that convert inputs to outputs. The steps involved in creating the outputs from the outputs. Paano mo ba ma-achieve yung output mo? No, ito yung process. The output is a piece of information which we want. Ano ang goal mo sa paggawa mo sa research mo? Another model is the predictor criterion model. This is an example of predictor criterion model. As I promised, I'm going to give you an example of a conceptual framework. Figure 1 describes the conceptual framework of the study wherein the input consisted of the profile of the technical vocational senior high school students on employability and sources of self-efficacy, which were carefully reviewed through related studies and literature. It was imperative to back up the construction and validation of the tests with these variables to come up with necessary information needed in developing the validated scale. This led to the process, which was the development of the employability self-efficacy scale, wherein the domains and items were validated by pool of experts in the field of counseling and employment. These were followed by pilot testing of the validated scale and statistical analysis to compute test validity and reliability. Other types of establishing the validity were observed, such as discriminant and concurrent validity. In terms of the establishment of reliability, the Cronbach's alpha was used. Finally, all the procedures led to the output, a valid and reliable employability self-efficacy scale. If you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Bye!